Welcome to GESARA for Dummies. It is the 7th of April 2025. Let's look at today's news from Professor William Liebenberg. Please like, share and subscribe. Join our Telegram group in the comments below. Thank you. Let's go. The GESARA law. U.S. officials introduce a law to sanction South Africa. Officials in the United States Congress have introduced a bill to sanction senior South African government and ANC officials who support their adversaries. U.S. Congressman Ronnie Jackson introduced the U.S.-South Africa Bilateral Relations Review Act of 2025, which calls for a full review of the bilateral relationship between the U.S. and South Africa. Jackson's office said, "The bill will help advance U.S. President Trump's foreign policy agenda by giving him the tools necessary to impose sanctions on South African officials who support America's adversaries. The era of governments undermining American interests without repercussions ends now," he said. "The United States must examine all of our bilateral relationships around the world and investigate all options to hold those countries and leaders who align with our adversaries responsible." The bill states that no later than 120 days after enactment, the President, in consultation with the Secretary of State and the Secretary of the Treasury, shall submit to the appropriate congressional committees a classified report including a list of senior South African government officials and ANC leaders that the President determines have engaged in a corruption or b. human rights abuses. The report will also include a detailed explanation describing the conduct forming the basis of the person's inclusion on the list, and the expected timeline for sanctions. And here goes the entire ANC party and South African Police Service as well as the EFF party and MK party. The bill identifies 8 key problem areas with the ANC and South Africa. 1. The ANC's policies are inconsistent with South Africa's stated policy of non-alignment in international affairs. 2. The South African government has a history of siding with malign actors, including Hamas, a United States-designated foreign terrorist organization and a proxy of the Iranian regime, and continues to pursue closer ties with the People's Republic of China, PRC, and the Russian Federation. 3. The South African government's continued support of Hamas. 4. Members of the South African government delivered anti-Semitic and anti-Israel statements and actions following the October 7 attacks by Hamas. 5. The South African government and the ANC maintain close relations with the Russian Federation, which has been accused of perpetrating war crimes in Ukraine and indiscriminately undermining human rights. 6. The South African government's interactions with the PRC government and ANC interactions with the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, are committing gross violations of human rights in the Xinjiang province and implementing economically coercive tactics around the globe. 7. The ANC-led South African government's history of substantially mismanaging a range of state resources and often being proven incapable of effectively delivering public services, threatening the South African people and the South African economy. 8. The most recent comments by former ambassador to the U.S., Ibrahim Rasool, describe President Trump as extreme, and characterize him as a white supremacist. Definitely on the sanction list is buffoon EFF leader Julius Malema, who says, "We don't want Ramaphosa's Expropriation Act. It says they, landowners, white farmers and white property owners, must be compensated. How do you give criminals money?" BRICS GESARA Nations Alliance. Dedollarization in motion. What BRICS nations are quietly planning. in a geopolitical context undergoing significant restructuring, two notable initiatives are shaking the hegemony of the dollar. 1. Brazil and China are making a strategic shift by favoring their national currencies for bilateral exchanges. 2. Meanwhile, Russia and Iran announced the launch of a new common trade currency to circumvent Western sanctions. These distinct but converging movements illustrate a shared desire among influential BRICS members to build a financial system less dependent on the green back and assert monetary sovereignty in the face of external pressures. Brazil and China, already robust trade relations, are now taking a more pronounced monetary turn, with a declared intention to gradually switch to payments in local currencies. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva is actively advocating for a gradual exit from the dollar-dominated system, especially as the next BRICS summit approaches. Structural support via the BRICS Bank. The new development bank allows member countries to avoid resorting to the dollar for financing projects, thus enhancing the effectiveness of this alternative monetary strategy. The United States is not going through its best economic moment, and let's be honest, its currency has gone from leading the global economy to being in one of the most decisive moments in our history. Everything is changing. We know that, and so are other countries economically. It's clear the world is moving toward a place we don't yet know, and geopolitical tensions are making each country play its own cards. 11 countries have announced they will stop using the dollar in 2025. We're going to tell you everything we know about this practically global decision and whether we are facing the end of the cabal's fiat dollar's global reign. That sums up your Monday news. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.